Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the TMA Talk Show. It's Tracy, your content producer for the podcast, and I'm so excited to introduce episode 17 titled All Brands on Deck. Before we jump into the recording, I want to extend a massive thank you to our incredible guest and friend of the podcast, Rosa Jiménez, for sitting down with Emily to share her incredible wealth of expertise with our community. In this episode, Emily and Rosa take us past standard checklists and look at what it truly means to step inside a brand, from consistency versus creativity, and why attempting a brand audit in under 60 seconds is an immediate call to outside counsel. Rosa breaks down what true brand immersion is. It teaches the brand's history, legacy, and intent. They'll bust the myth of the 60-day onboarding timeline and chat about the long game of building relationships. There's some great analogies along the way, comparing the early phase of due diligence, IP summaries, and building toolkits to the dating phase. Finally, they go into the real-world operational realities, like handling internal corporate disconnects and how to shift the practice away from absolute control and more toward proactive brand stewardship. It's a fantastic conversation, so on to the show.
Welcome to the TMA Talk Show. The TMA Talk Show will take you into the heart of the TMA community, highlighting the trademark administrators as a force to be reckoned with within the intellectual property landscape. Hosted by yours truly, Emily Quackenbush, along with several surprise guest hosts, the TMA Talk Show will focus on the IP community, collaboration, and the unique contributions of each episode's special guests. This is the TMA Talk Show. Because while the rest of the world is busy building, marketing, and launching, the trademark administrator is quietly, or not so quietly, making sure you still own the name you're so proud of. Oh, and hey, of course, this goes without saying, but All Legal is a legal tech company and not a law firm. Nothing here in this episode should be considered legal advice, and this presentation expressed the views of our speakers and not necessarily those of Alt Legal, the TMAE, or the views of the hosts. Hi, welcome back to the TMA Talk Show. Today, we're not just talking about branding, we're actually stepping inside of it. So when you're dealing with licensed brands, brand immersion isn't just nice to have, it's actually operational. Because the second someone starts representing your brand, you lose direct day-to-day control. And what replaces that control is clarity. A lot of companies treat onboarding like a basic checklist. Here's the logo, here are the colors, don't do this, don't do that. But that isn't immersion, that's just instruction. Real immersion happens when a partner understands why the brand works. It's about getting them to a place where even if there isn't just a specific rule in front of them, they still make the right call. Immersion is what keeps everything aligned, even when you're not in the room. Now, it's one thing to build a culture within your own team, but what happens when you're handing the keys to someone else? Trademark administrators protect and standardize the very elements that make these experiences possible. Without that structure, even the best branding strategies just fall apart. I'm so excited to dive into this topic with a dear friend of the podcast. She truly needs no introduction. Miss Rosa Jiménez, Manager, Legal, Intellectual Property at Travel and Leisure. Rosa is an IP professional with 25 plus years of experience in brand protection, trademark strategy, and licensing. She has led global trademark and copyright portfolios, brand clearance, and enforcement efforts, and worked both in law firms and in-house. She currently supports global brand protection and licensing at Travel and Leisure Co. Welcome back, Rosa.
Oh, thank you, Emily. Thank you for the invitation. And huge congrats on season 2 of the TMA Talk Show. That's an incredible milestone.
I know. Can you believe it? It's been a long journey and we're not done. Trust me.
I love the podcast. It's such a great resource. It keeps me on my toes. I keep learning every time I listen to it. So congratulations. Well done.
Awesome. That's why we do it, for all of our friends and colleagues, and hopefully everyone else enjoys it just as much. All right, let's start out with some fun rapid fire questions to get warmed up. Okay,
I
Rosa.
love warming up.
I know, we need it, trust me. If someone stepped inside your brand today, what would they find?
Hopefully, they feel protected and confident, and also with a sense of legacy. I would like to think that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, is brand immersion more about consistency or creativity?
Hmm. If I had to choose, I would say consistency for sure, because brand immersion is rooted in consistency. When a brand shows up the same visually, emotionally, and behaviorally, it's like chef's kiss. It's gold. I think of, Starbucks, that experience that you get in the US, you get the same experience outside of the US. And that's consistency. So that's why I love, consistency as part, or the main part of brand immersion. I'm curious, Em, and I love to take your take on this. Do you see stronger brands leaning more into consistency or creativity?
That's a good question because I think it differs across what type of client you have. That could be different for food industry clients. They love consistency, right, with their products. But however, with AI and all the good stuff that's happening, they want to be consistent with the consumers and with the product lines. So I think they have to also continue to be creative and keep up with everybody else. So I think it can
Right.
go both ways, honestly. They
A
have to
hundred
continue.
percent.
Yeah.
A
Hmm.
100%. I think creativity is what makes a brand memorable. So
Exactly.
that's also a
Hmm.
factor.
So,
Absolutely.
right, exactly. So be consistent with your product, but continue to be creative as well.
Creative.
Right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So, what's the first sign a brand is starting to lose its identity?
Then the flip side of consistency,
Hmm.
inconsistency, when a
Right.
brand starts showing up differently across different, touch points, that's usually the first sign that there's something that it's not working.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. And if you had to audit a brand in 60 seconds, what are you looking for first?
60 seconds, you said? I'm calling outside counsel. Six, there's nothing I can. No, no. Yeah, no. Seriously, 60 seconds to look at something. Yeah, it's something that I would definitely loop in outside counsel. I'm curious. What about you? What are you scanning in 60 seconds if you had
Mhm.
to do something?
Yeah, no, it actually, yeah, for sure, because that's what your counsel is there for, right? They should be able to, in 60 seconds, respond to you. Well, this is what I see, and here's your answer. And so
Yeah.
on the other side of that, as in a law firm environment, brand guidelines. Does your client have those brand guidelines in place? If not, can you help them develop them? Those
Yeah.
those are hugely important because as
Yeah.
counsel, I think it's important for a trademark administrator to be able to know the portfolio and know what the client expects on the receiving end of what that audit might look like. Well, you can start with those brand guidelines, right? You should already know the client's portfolio and be able to respond in that 60 seconds. So
Good
that's
answer.
thank you. I hope I passed the test. All right, let's move on. Does brand immersion require control or trust?
Ooh, I think both.
Mhm.
Both, but it's a balance between trust and control, because without control, trust doesn't really hold. Immersion starts with clear guidelines, as you mentioned earlier, but it grows with trust. So that's I think it's a balance between both.
Yeah, absolutely. And last one. If licensed trademarks could talk, what would they complain about most?
Oh, that's a fun question. So if a licensed mark could talk, I would say, you know, they would say, don't stretch me, or where's my TM symbol or my R symbol? I think licensed brands, they need freedom within the rules, but they also need guidelines, and some rules. So I think they would say, you can borrow me and you can use
Mm-hmm.
me on their license, but follow the agreement
Yeah.
kind of
Don't
thing.
abuse me. Don't tr- don't
Stretch
treat me
me.
like don't treat me like that. Be nice. How
Yeah,
about so licensed trademarks are rule followers then you'd say?
very much so. I
Okay.
think, you can borrow me, but just follow the agreement.
Yeah, exactly. Help me help you, be nice to me, and we'll get along just fine.
And
Right?
they're rule followers indeed.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Rosa, let's get into it. We
Let's.
want to hear about the good stuff. In your experience, when you onboard a licensed partner or a licensed brand, what's the difference between giving them brand guidelines and actually immersing them in the brand?
Well, I love this question because I think this is the gist of our conversation today.
Mm-hmm.
And brand guidelines are foundational. They are what you go to when you have a question, right? The rules are there, the guardrails are there, the 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 do's and don'ts, you will find them, in the brand guidelines. But they're static, and they can't anticipate the different scenarios. So on the other hand, you have brand immersion, which is a deeper dive, and it should explain the risks, and it
Mm-hmm.
also helps users understand the why, the brand's purpose, its value, the intent, and a little bit of history as well. Immersion explains why consistency matters,
Mm-hmm.
what the risks are when you're inconsistent, and how the brand should feel to the end consumer. So at the end of the day,
Right.
guidelines tell you what to do, but immersion tells you why it matters.
You just said immersion is why it matters. I'd love to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah, because when you look at brand guidelines, it's a document. It tells you what to do, but when you go through the process of immersion, when you talk about the history of the brand, why it should be treated this way, what it means to the consumer, what it means to the licensor,
Mm-hmm.
and the legacy.
Right.
Usually when you license a trademark, it has a history. It's not a standalone asset that you develop. It already exists, and immersion helps you understand the history, how it's been treated, what it's been through,
Mm-hmm.
where it's registered.
Right.
If it's a global brand, then you can see the totality of where it's registered, where it's been. If it's a U.S. Based brand, what's the potential outside of the U.S.? That's immersion.
Mm-hmm. I really like that, Rosa. So it's not just a technicality of obtaining that registration and getting those on file. It's a connection. It's a connection with your consumers, with product lines and what have you. That's really great.
Do you see, from the law firm side, do you see like a disconnect with clients when they think that, you know, you have the guidelines and then that's good enough?
Yeah, all the time. Like you'll have run one um, uh, department, product line department doing something and one doing this, both instructing their counsel, not talking, and then you revamp their portfolio, and there's so many things that they should not have filed in to begin with, and then the product and the portfolio just becomes so gray, and there is no immersion. There's no feeling for it. They end up just overfiling it. All right. What does successful onboarding look like, say, in 60 days? And is that even possible to identify?
60 days?
I know.
Um, no, 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 no. So I've never kept track of the how many days, a successful onboarding looks like. But 60 days, we're still celebrating, we're still, enjoying the excitement of onboarding a new brand. I think that from the announcement, logistics and alignment to internal communications, where you work with corporate communication teams, brand teams, even legal. You know, there's so much excitement, and from my experience, uh, these agreements can last 30, 50, 100 years. So 60 days is it's we're just getting started in 60 days. But from my experience, early priorities would include building relationships, knowing your counterparts. I think we touched on that. Aligned on assets, that asset transfers, timelines, set expectations, all of those little things, they happen, right when after the deal is signed. But I think it depends on the type of the agreement, and if I'm being honest, because you have sponsorship agreements and other types of agreements that happen really fast. And often there is even no exhibit to what you can use or can't. So again, you would rely on communication, collaboration, so that you can get onboarding done as quickly and as effectively as possible. But successful onboarding in 60 days, I would say, we're preparing summaries, IP summaries of the agreements with critical dates, including the licensed IP, what we're allowed to use or not. And and even before the deal is signed, you still have to work with due diligence clearances, filing instructions. You're getting all of that, together even before anything is announced. So domain acquisitions, there's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes, um, before even brand immersion or onboarding even, happens. So I think that after things settle down, the teams begin to work with brand guidelines, build like a brand playbook with who we are, who the brand is, the look and feel, visual identities, visual toolkits, and building that entire ecosystem that would eventually become brand guidelines and brand immersion.
So like a dating phase.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. You want everything to be right, and you plan out the perfect date, the perfect restaurant, so the perfect beginning phases to impress each other.
So in a sports analogy, you're at the batting cage, and then you go to first base and second base, etc. It's seldom you don't hit a grand slam, starting from the gate. So
yeah, that's super exciting. That must be so
it is.
exciting. Yeah, when
It
you get
is.
those first phases in and everything. The branding
Absolutely.
playbook, that
Yes.
sounds
Yes.
really fun.
And no, from your perspective, does the work stop after the agreement is signed? What happens at the law firm
No, in
in the law
fact,
firm environment?
similar to it just starts that's just the beginning. It just begins. And similar to my analogy of the dating phase, it's the same thing. It's the first exciting beginning. Not saying that, after dating a long time it gets boring. I'm just saying, it's
Yeah.
the beginning phase of where everything is brand new and fresh, and you have those beginning phases. The work is just beginning, learning the portfolio, getting it into the system, making sure that all of the docket is properly inserted into our system, not missing any deadlines, looking backwards. I like actually to look backwards into the portfolio to see what happened prior, as everybody
Mhm.
should, just to see what it looked like before. Immerse your, and brand immersion. Immerse yourself into the brand.
you mentioned, that you onboard those assets as well, the portfolio of the client. I'm curious because sometimes, brand owners or licensees, they manage their own portfolios and manage their own docketing and all that good stuff. How can you help as an outside counsel? Sometimes incorporating a license mark into our docket
Mm-hmm.
can be confusing because we're not in charge of that
Right.
brand. So how can we manage that? How can we navigate?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, first of all, as a trademark administrator, we don't necessarily write the rules, but we do have great ideas as to how we can incorporate that into our monitoring system to still offer guidance. It's
Okay.
kind of like we don't, well, I'm full of analogies today, but like the traffic light system in an intersection, we can help you. We'll hold your hand across the street, but we're not controlling when the light changes, right? So protection against those and guide you along, and maybe perhaps a shadow docket, although in a lot of places those aren't really popular. But hey, docketing team, can we have a shadow docket for this particular mark? Not necessarily managing it, but the renewal, a declaration of use comes up 3 months out. Hey, client, that's not really managing this mark. It's coming up in 3 months. Just FYI, what do you want to do with this? Even though
So
we're not counsel, but it's coming
so
up.
that's what a shadow docket is.
That's what I consider it to be.
Oh
Yes, or
wow.
that's
Oh,
what that's
interesting.
yeah. I think shadow docket for various law firms, love them or hate them, they can be used for various things. All right, Rosa, I'm curious. Where would you say licensed partners misunderstand the whole brand immersion thing right out of the gate?
That's a great question. I think, when they misunderstand is when they view brand immersion as a one-time onboarding event, not as an ongoing
Mm,
conversation.
absolutely.
Treating brand immersion as something that, you get through and at the beginning of the relationship, and then
Right.
you're good. But that's not the reality because, brands evolve,
Hmm.
campaigns shift, audiences, demographics, they also change. So it's an ongoing conversation. And I think that's the one misunderstanding, that immersion is a one-time onboarding thing and you're done.
Right, absolutely. And let me ask you this, when campaigns change, audiences change, launches change, what have you, how do you keep that brand immersion going with these partners?
Collaboration.
Hmm.
Collaboration. It's about communication.
Yep.
It's about it, it's ongoing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to uh,
So it's
add
it's not
more, but
right. It's not just a transaction. Perhaps it's a relationship. You can keep them in communication with the marketing aspect, perhaps.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
It's immersion. Even as you do like dedicate a day to brand immersion, and we'll talk about that later. It's still ongoing. It's still, there are partners that want to look at anything that is public facing before it made public. But as time evolves, as the relationship evolves and time passes, those conversations are less and less, and they're more strategic. And you're not asking, can I do this or can we do
Mm-hmm.
that? You're saying, how does this feel?
Right.
Is it on target? You start talking about the feeling, and you start talking about almost like a brand owner, but
Mm-hmm.
you're the licensee.
Right. Absolutely. Invite that conversation.
Yes.
Communicate. Yeah, absolutely.
Communication, collaboration.
That's right. Yeah. Brand immersion. That's what it is. Yep. So, in your role as a TMA, can you walk me through an immersion onboarding process? What it might look like step by step?
Yes. So picture this. It's an onboarding experience that is structured, high impact, with sizzle reels and um, catering, and oh, it's a celebration, right? One day initiation that fully orients stakeholders to the brand, to the ecosystem, to the
Mhm.
ways of working. It blends storytelling. It also has like deep dives, and you hear from cross team collaboration and engagement to create this shared understanding of the brand. This is when alignment happens, when momentum happens from day one. So it's you structure an entire day, and it starts with all the stakeholders in the room, or virtually, that works too. But you know teams introduce themselves. You start talking about the brand story, the legacy. That's where you have the Zizzle reels. We know what marketing looks like, what the audience is, what, any insights in that respect. Media overview, audience insights. I mentioned that. The brand positioning, happens in brand immersion. Sub brands, you have org charts, if you will,
Mhm.
of um, visual assets of the brand. Also, and I mentioned this earlier, that global consideration.
Mhm.
This is where you see the world of where the mark has been registered or used or lives, and the areas and countries where it matters or where there's a large presence, etc. And then you also talk about guidelines. So
Mhm.
it's a guidelines, it's a subset of brand immersion. And
Right.
you also talk about clearance processes. And that's a big part of it, because if you understand as a licensee early on what those processes entail, how much time the licensor needs to review the materials that you're preparing, or that you want to make sure that you're able to use them, that
Mhm.
takes time. So
Yeah.
it's a full day with information, excitement. You're sharing your brand, the legacy, and so it's very impactful and such a good learning experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of it too is trademark administrators should also think about brands and brand families. There is the overarching brand, but what happens underneath that is very important. In the law firm side, it's very important that your clients understand that you understand that as well. Um, and eventually, over the years and working with one portfolio, you understand which marks belong in which family. I think that's hugely important. It's not just, again, I'll say this again, and I said it earlier, it's not a transactional job that we have. You
Mm-hmm.
actually have to know your clients and know your clients' portfolios. Oh, this mark actually matters and goes under this brand umbrella. Do they
Mm-hmm.
really want to renew it? Does it matter? Was it
Yeah.
just a launch for a 2-year phase or something? I think that's hugely important, and that belongs in the brand immersion process.
And that's so on point. From an in-house legal team's perspective, a lot of these conversations and collaborations also happen outside of the legal realm, right? It happens, with the brand people, the marketing team, etc. And sometimes you have to catch up with what's going on. Hopefully, you have that communication internally as well,
Hmm.
because a lot of the collaboration, it's from the brand team of the licensor with the brand team of the licensee. So, including
Right.
legal, it's also helpful, because we are partners in this journey. From
That's
we're
right.
looking at the document, at the master relationship licensing agreement from its inception.
That's right.
So
Hmm.
we can only just help uh, and assist our internal teams with that
Yeah,
relationship building.
that's right. And as a TMA, you should want to see your teams be successful. And if you don't have these answers, you should ask. You should want to be involved and want to know what these brands look like and what their
Yeah,
families look like and what
yeah,
they might look
and some
like in the
yeah,
future.
yeah, and sometimes these things happen really fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I was focusing on these master relationship licensing agreements that last many, many years, but with sponsorship agreements that are more short-term agreements.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's no time, right? It's you have so limited time to develop a campaign or an event, and with that speed, mistakes can happen.
Sure.
And if legal is, comes along, we can help catch those and help, the team just succeed at what they want to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so with that, assuming all the fun presentations are done and all of the training is complete, say you start seeing a licensed brand starting to drift. How do you course correct without damaging that super delicate relationship? And how do you keep the immersion alive after onboarding is done?
Mm, that's a good question. In life in general, I think a good tip would be to assume good intent.
Mm-hmm.
You start from that base. You're not doing it because you don't care. You're doing it because something is off. And sometimes, again, and we talked about this earlier, when a brand drifts, it's possible because speed and pressure and other things are a factor, and not necessarily is, bad faith is
Right.
a part of it. Is, again, assume good intent. And I can't stress it enough, but that collaboration, that conversations, those early conversations, that's what you want to have with your licensed partner. And also, this is something that I thought about as I was preparing to speak with you. Don't lead with contract language. Like,
Mm.
well, section 6.2 of the agreement says that that
Right.
you're not supposed to do this, or oh, you're in violation. That's not going to get you far.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, again, assuming good intent and being more of a coach, if you will, as opposed to,
Absolutely.
you know, uh, nagging or pointing out what they're doing wrong.
Absolutely.
Because again, these are long-term relationships. Even in short ones, you want to everyone to succeed and to make it work. So assume good intent.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very true. And a lot of it could just be simple excitement and education within their own companies as well, you know? So, and I've said this before, education is key. Just let them know.
Yeah,
Let them know
yeah,
what's going on.
yes. So I'm curious, when issues escalate,
That
and
never
the law
happens.
firm
Come on.
gets the law firm is involved, what does that look like? Is it too late to course correct, or can you still help, you know, get the brand back into that collaborative space?
Right, right. First of all, never say never. The world's not going to end. I try to always keep that in mind. It's the world won't end. Um, Branding is amazing and everybody loves brands and we deal with them every day. The minute we get in our car, they're all over the place. We see them every day. So course correcting is, again, collaboration, like you said. Have a conversation. That's the first thing. Understand what the issue is first. As a trademark administrator, I think we're great problem solvers. So my first dive would be to look at the portfolio and see what is what. What is ours, meaning the client, what is not,
Hmm.
and take it from there. And see, pinpoint it, have a conversation with the attorney, present what the problem is, and then say, here's what I'm seeing. Maybe we can perhaps have a conversation to address this. So just get down to the bottom of it first and do a little research before you freak out because it may not be that big of an issue. And
Yeah.
we called it course correct. It's not course fail. You're correcting something. It's not a failure. Um, and again, like you said,
in good faith, right? They probably
Mhm.
these brands just get excited. That's a good thing, right? People get
Yeah,
excited
yeah.
about these brands, and that's a very good thing. So
And
I
I
hope I
think,
answered your
and
question.
that's
Yeah.
and that's why bringing in outside counsel and make them feel part of that brand immersion is so important, because you will need help along the way.
Hmm.
And when your outside counsel it's up to speed and understands your culture, the
That's
brand,
right.
the values, that all that happens behind the scenes, it's a good day for everyone.
Yeah. Another thing I will say though is portfolio hygiene. It's not fun when you discover a registration or an application is out there without the client letting you know. That's happened before. We don't know what we don't know. So keep those communications clean as a client, and then also as a license that you may have with a third party. If we don't know, we don't know, we can't help you. That's, good hygiene, good portfolio hygiene is super important, because that could avoid some of this course correction, right? Uh, there's sometimes instances where this mark was out there, blah, blah, blah. Oh, well, that would have been nice to know, that you had entered into
Right.
this agreement and we flagged it and we didn't know you were in this agreement with XYZ. That's stinky portfolio hygiene. You want clean, beautiful portfolio hygiene. So that's one thing, from the beginning, be open with your counsel. No surprises. That's a good thing. So.
I agree.
So, do you have any specific tools or checkpoints that help reinforce the agreements over time?
Sure. So this master relationship licensing agreements, typically in my experience, what I've seen is that they establish this brand council meetings, or it has different names depending
Mm-hmm.
on who drafted the agreement. But these are like quarterly check-in meetings
Mm-hmm.
where both the licensor and the licensee meet. The brand teams exchange, they exchange, their marketing plans, how they plan to use the brand in the near future, or how, you know any new uses or expanded uses. Everything is laid out in these meetings. And so when you have those check-ins, it also serves as, if you're from the licensor side, you have to keep control of the brand. It's a legal requirement.
Mm-hmm.
So that gives you, those minutes of that meeting, those quarterly meetings, that gives you the control or the evidence that you are meeting with the licensee and you're having control of the brand, because you know what the licensee is doing or plans to do. So I think, that is such a good checkpoint and tool to have in those agreements.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you say, is that a role that you oversee or do yourself, or how's that handled?
So as a TMA, I am lucky enough or fortunate to be included in quarterly meetings.
Wonderful.
And yes, so you know that I keep those minutes are
Mm-hmm.
part of my record. And if it comes to having to show that we have kept control of the brand, we do have
Beautiful. Yeah.
those to show. Yeah.
Because I was going to say, if a TMA isn't involved, everyone's screwed.
Yeah.
Okay, Rosa, for a TMA listening, what's one thing they should stop doing immediately when onboarding licensed brands? And what's one thing they should be doing instantly to improve the process?
Well, they should immediately stop treating brand immersion as a one-time check the box onboarding step. Onboarding is an event, but immersion is a process. And
Mm-hmm.
also, another thing that they should stop that we should stop doing if we're doing it is assuming that partners will stay aligned after the initial kickoff.
Right.
It you again, it's I go back to the collaboration communication because it doesn't stop there. So what TMAs could start doing is creating an ongoing proactive touch points, with partners. That's something that we can definitely do. Explaining not just the rules, but the why or the reasoning behind the brand. That's something that we can also uh, support, and reinforcing how the brand should feel and or how the brand should show up. That's also something that a TMA could definitely do. So TMAs shift from one-time instruction to continuous alignment to drive real brand immersion.
Absolutely. Okay, Rosa, if a partner fully understood your brand and not just the rules, but the intent of the brand, what would they do differently tomorrow?
They would make decisions that feel on brand, not just to comply with the technicality of guidelines. They I think I mentioned it earlier, they start acting more like a brand owner
Mhm.
than a brand licensee. They would also uh, shift from, can we do this, to, is this aligned with the brand experience? They would also, be more strategic and and more audience focused questions would come up, if that makes sense. Um, when intent is understood, when partners, act like brand owners, not just rule followers.
Right, exactly. Okay. How would you say a trademark administrator could highlight their involvement and successes in this whole brand immersion process?
It starts with being involved during the revision and creation of the license agreement. When you become a part of a team that works with the due diligence, the steps
Mhm.
and the processes that will be included in that agreement, you know, the attorneys can ask, Rosa, how long do you think it should take for the licensor to approve a request? And then, it depends, right? But if it's a digital campaign, those things happen fast. So you don't want to insert a 20-day period for approval. It needs to move faster. So that's one highlight that I would, think. For me, it matters that I'm involved and being asked those questions.
Absolutely.
Um, During due diligence, a full search was a comprehensive search was requested. TMA, can you look at this and tell us what you see, where you see gaps, where you see opportunities, etc. That's a big opportunity for a TMA to shine.
Hmm.
When the agreement is signed and executed, you're also a part of the team that gets together in that celebratory email that goes all the way to the CEO and thank you everybody who helped, make this come true, a reality. That's also a win for a TMA to be, involved with the leaders at that level. I think that another win would be right after the execution of the agreement, when this is going to be announced internally
Hmm.
and when it's going to be announced externally. um, Acquiring domain names, things that happen really fast, but your keen eye and you're savvy about these things, and timing matters, and you bring that experience with you and collaborate with your internal and external teams. That's big.
Right.
That makes you an important component of this entire journey. And when brand immersion comes, You are already well versed and well aware of the rights that have been granted, maybe the things that we should stay away from, and you already know, stakeholders. So it's a journey, and to be a part of that journey early, during, before, and after, it's a win for all TMA.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Good things happen when TMAs are involved. And keep your, let's call it a playbook. Like any transactions you're involved with, keep that. Keep a folder, keep your historical wins, keep your successes. And also it helps you go back and know what happened with these clients, if you will. That's
Yeah.
good historical knowledge that you should have, that you should comprehend, that you should know. I keep saying, know your clients, know your clients. Well, this is one way to remember that. These are huge transactions that will help you with your knowledge of your clients, of your brands, of your company, of your work. So
Yeah.
great job.
And when the TMA is part of the process of screening or reviewing materials that are going to be public facing, etc., you are already part of, you've been immersed from the beginning. So
Immerse yourself.
immersed.
Immerse yourself. You won't regret it. So today we broke down what it really takes to onboard licensed brands without losing the integrity of the brand. The biggest takeaway? Brand immersion is not the same as brand instruction. Guidelines alone don't create alignment. Understanding does. I'm hearing that immersion can't be a one-time event. It has to be reinforced through ongoing training, feedback, and communication. And as you scale, the goal doesn't seem to be more control, but stronger stewardship. Rosa, do you have any final thoughts?
Yes, I like to leave everyone with this. Brand immersion is what turns a trademark from a legal concept into a living asset that people know how to respect and use correctly. For those of us in the trademark community, immersion is how we preserve distinctiveness, reduce risk, and support long-term brand value, especially in licensing. When it's reinforced through ongoing communication and shared standards, alignment scales naturally.
Friends, at the TMA Talk Show, we like to highlight a trademark administrator or someone in the TMA community who has inspired our guests. This episode's adminspiration is Miss Denise Grassi. Denise Grassi is Director of Trademarks and Legal Operational Strategy at Edgewell Personal Care, where she leads global trademark strategy and drives operational efficiency across the legal function. Her passion for developing high-performing teams and mentoring emerging talent led to an opportunity to create and execute company-wide sponsorship program. And she is thrilled to have recently added Gallup Certified Strengths Coach to her resume. Denise draws inspiration from the TMA community and its spirit of connection. Whether within the same organization or across industries and continents, the TMA community consistently comes together to support and lift one another. Congratulations, Denise. Join us next time for episode 18, where we will explore the power of intentional mentorship and unique training programs for TMAs and other trademark professionals. We will hear all about the program that our friends at Daniel IP created to level up TMAs in their exchange programs and how this transformed TMAs into higher level strategic partners. We're going to feature both sides of the partnership and highlight the steps firms can take to foster a culture of continuous growth, ensuring that career development isn't just a goal, but a shared operational standard. You don't want to miss it. The TMA Talk Show is a production of Alt Legal and the Trademark Administrators Exchange. And before we go, a big thanks to our amazing team. Content producer, Tracy Cook. Chief Editor, Jernez Owens. Editorial producer, Bree Van Thiel. Social media manager, Sam Hands. And original music by Sunny St. John. This was made by TMAs for TMAs. Until next time, stay inspired, stay curious, and always keep transforming your tomorrow.